Single-target arts lancers are quite a rarity. For the longest time, Li Shuwen was the only game in town. With Guda Final Hanoji though, things have changed. Meet Nagao Kagetora. She's a 4-star lancer and, critically, a freebie. Now conventional wisdom would suggest that the freelancer is worse than the gacha one, but the results may surprise you. With an arts attacker, the Noble Phantasm is the keystone of their kit, and on this front, Kagetora has Bishamon Ten's 8-aspect rotating formation. It's a single-target arts NP that purges offensive buffs. It also reduces crit chance tied to overcharge. The extra effects make for a little bit of disruption, but they help. The real prize is that hit count, 8 compared to Li Shuwen's 3. If your goal is to loop, this is a much better foundation. To help her on this front, Kagetora has Fate Decreed by Heavens. It's a single-turn arts and star absorption buff. Oh, that's a double-edged sword. On one hand, star absorption is quite nice. Kagetora has a 2A2B deck, so she doesn't have the most reliable access to arts cards. Being able to crit on those cards substantially increases her odds of looping. On the other hand, that single-turn arts buff is rough. 3-turn buffs are king in looping, and not having that on your arts steroid is a bum hand. Not fatally so, but still. Helps that Li Shuwen is in the same boat. Next up is Armor Strengthened by Heart. It gives evasion and NP gain. Aw, one turn again? First of all, you're in the position of choosing between mitigation and an attacking buff. That trade-off's a lot more relevant for Kagetora than someone like Raiko, because you tend to leverage single-target attackers more against challenging enemies, ones where you'd really want some form of NP defense. And yeah, that one-turn effect is pretty rough. It's not even like a Zerkalot situation where the buff is huge to compensate. In other words, it helps, but not nearly to the degree that you'd want, again increasing Kagetora's dependence on arts crits. She does have one multi-turn buff at least. Glory Gained on Foot is a 3-turn party attack, crit damage, and star generation buff. At the very least, it gives Kagetora some form of consistent damage steroid, something that Li Shuwen lacks. Despite her shaky looping situation, you still want to run Kagetora with looping art supporters like Tamamo and Castoria. The latter lets her use Armor Strengthened by Heart with impunity. The other strategy is to leverage passive star generation to augment her crits. Hans is quite a convenient pick for his accessibility and slew of relevant buffs. Once you get access to Fragment of 2030, your options widen a fair bit and even include loop supports. Speaking of craft essences, you should focus on arts buffs starting charge, NP gain, and NP damage. Magical Girl of Sapphire, Holy Night Supper, Formal Craft, Royal Icing, Mark on a Smiling Face, Kaleidoscope, and Painting Summer, which has mixed stats, but it's free and coming relatively soon. For command codes, you want picks that help you focus crit stars on your arts cards. The Inexperienced Fantasies Command Seal, Majin-san, and Armament of Victory, for example. Maybe you think it's weird that I gripe so much about her single-turn buffs, but Kagetora's looping potential is actually a relevant factor. From next year, you'll see more high-end nodes with abnormal enemy counts. One that really sticks in my craw is from Hunting Quest 9. It features a 1-1-2 distribution of high-health archers, and I thought, if Kagetora loops those first 2 waves, I'm set. But I just couldn't make the damn thing work. Admittedly, I don't have all the tools on that account. Maybe a Super Scope and Plugsuit Tamamo could have made the difference, but I doubt it. The damage requirement was fairly strict on that last wave, and here I found another one of Kagetora's unfortunate quirks. Even if you do loop, you have to expend that 1-turn arts buff, making your final NP weaker than it could be. It's a situation where you'd want her to loop just on her NP and not rely on face cards, but it didn't pan out for me. But don't get it twisted, Kagetora is still quite good. In most relevant circumstances, I'd say she's solidly better than Li Shuwen. He does have burst crit damage, a defense ignoring upgrade, and multiple ways to bypass evasion. Those are feathers in his cap, so I won't go so far as to say she makes him obsolete, but let me put it this way. The things you want a single-target lancer to do, Kagetora tends to do them better and more reliably. Simple in her applications, sure, but effective. She's a competent attacker who's a lot better at fishing for loops, and her attack buff gives her presence over multiple turns, versus Li, who's a bit of a one-pump chump. She's also by far the more convenient of the two to build up. Strategically, those are pretty big assets, and I'd strongly recommend playing Guda Final Hanoji to get her. And let's not forget, she's got that creepy-ass smile, like Fate's own Jeff the Killer. How can you say no to that? If I get this video out on schedule, I'll be streaming today, blowing the last few 10 rolls I have on Mistake to fish for Asclepius. That account has a reputation for some freakish luck, so I suspect you'll want to stop by and see what happens. That aside, like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and my normal stream days are Friday through Sunday, 3 PM Pacific Time. Twitch.tv/VinoTyson. See you there.